Hey guys, welcome back to AFK Journey. In today's video, we are checking out Ludovic. Now, I spent about the last hour or so in the Analytica Discord with Season, just on a call, streaming his summons and then doing some testing. Early impressions on this guy, high-end PvP usage seems pretty promising. Bossing and high deficit pushing, not so promising. As for, obviously for the faction tower, I think he'll do well, but I don't think pulling a character to the faction tower is really what you want to do. In general, me personally, on my free-to-play account, I am going to be skipping this guy unless I see, like, through more testing, we find another way that he's, like, really, really strong. Because at the moment, he doesn't seem strong enough for me to go, yeah, this guy is a must-pull. I just don't see it. If you want a TLDR of reasons, I think his kit has a lot of damage listed in it, but he just appears to do no damage. Like, we had some fights where Huon was doing more damage than him, which I don't know if that's a bug, because I feel like he should be doing damage because he's got no buffing. He's like, damage is his thing, damage and healing, but the damage just feels non-existent on him. So he is just basically a heal bot. And when we look at the sustains that we already have in the game, and maybe on a fresh account, he's not a bad unit to pick up. And once he goes to the standard wish list, I think he may have a position in the wish list for new accounts. And I'll talk about that in an updated wish list video, because then I'll have more testing done. But in general, when we look at using your hard save diamonds and exclusive summons on this guy, when he's more of just a pure sustain, and when we look at what especially free-to-play probably have already built, I'm hoping most free-to-play by now, if you started at global, you have a Smokey built to Mythic Plus. If not, your rates have been dog shit and I feel so sorry for you. But Smokey's one that everyone's going for. Besides that, we have Damien, who is an amazing A-level healer. We have Coco, who's an amazing A-level sustain. And then we also have Huon, who is one that we can get through the arena store, who is also very strong. So we have these four, like, obviously we also have like Rowan and stuff, but Rowan's a bit of a different case. But we have these four really, really powerful sustain units already in the game that are fairly accessible for most players. And it makes me struggle to say, yes, you should use all those hard saved resources to get this guy, when I don't think he's going to have a disproportionate level of increase for accounts. Now, once again, keep in mind, as always, this is based off about an hour and a half of testing. This could change, and if it does, I will update you. But if you want my early impressions on pulling for this guy, for me personally, I'm skipping. You guys make your decision, but I just don't think he's going to have the wood in bossing or in deficit pushing. But I do think for high-end arena, he does have a place. So I'll show you guys some replays and stuff. We'll go through his kit quickly again, and then I'll give you guys the big summary of everything. So for his ultimate, once again, we did just do a video yesterday going through his skills. I'm going to do these really, really quickly, and so we don't overlap too much. But he generates a field of Everblooms with a total healing amount of 1200% of his current attack at his position, restoring HP for adjacent allies by 150% per second. The Everbloom field will wither when its healing amount depletes, but it will restore 100% per second and revive when the healing amount is full. So basically, it's a field that passively gets activated at the very start of battle on him, and then it's going to heal allies in its area only when they need healing. It doesn't overheal. And then once it's used up that 1200% of his attack healing, it will go into a withered state where it doesn't heal for another 12 seconds till it generates, but there is other stuff in his kit that will help it maintain. So keep that in mind. And then when he actively uses it, he's going to move the field, and then it's going to do like a big pulse heal to allies within range of where he moves it to, and that heal is independent of the 1200% heal. Then we have Life Weaver's Bloom. Whenever a non-summoned enemy on the battlefield loses 40% of their HP, the Everbloom field will absorb 15% of their max HP up to 350% as nutrients to restore its healing amount. This is how you can get a bunch of healing into this thing, into this 1200%, and keep it active. Keep in mind, it doesn't have to deplete to do that. It can be at like 600 and then you get that heal, and then it goes up by an extra 350 and it's back up to 950. It can happen during the healing process, so it doesn't always wither. It can sometimes just stay on the field. But I don't think this absorbed 15%. I don't think it's absorbing 15%, like stealing an additional, like once they lose 14, I read this as it then steals an additional 15% of their max HP and throws it into it. based on his damage numbers, I don't see it actually doing that. But once again, I could be wrong, but his damage is just feeling really lackluster. Active, Ludovic hurls Everblooms at the enemy with the highest accumulated damage dealt, making them lose HP equal to 40% per second over the next 4 seconds. Honestly, this is negligible because once again, he just isn't dealing damage. Next up we have, and once again, maybe it's a calculator, maybe it's not displaying it properly and he actually is doing big damage and we just don't know it. Ethereal Blooms. Ludovic moves the Everbloom field to the weakest ally and absorbs up to like 13+% of the nearest non-summoner enemy's HP, up to 250% to restore the Life Bloom's healing amount. Now, the Everbloom's healing amount. Once again, this is like damage sounds solid, but I'm just not seeing it. But nonetheless, it is absorption into the Everbloom field, keeping his healing rolling. Then we go on to his healing focus. He just basically increases his healing amount, and as he heals more with the Everbloom, once he generates more into the Everbloom, he will get more healing. So healing output, good. Solid hero focus. Then his exclusive equipment, every 2 times the Everbloom field absorbs nutrients through Life Weaver's Bloom. That's every 2 times enemies lose 40% of their max HP. It will produce an ephemeral barrier that explodes after a short delay, dealing damage to all enemies and restoring health for all allies within range. And then at level 3, we get the next upgrade. Permanently enhances the Everbloom's field upon the first 4 times it absorbs nutrients, restoring its healing amount by 50%. So it's just increasing the effectiveness of the field, essentially. That's what the addition is there. Now we move on to his Supreme Plus, which is one we didn't previously see. This one's actually really nice for PvP. Whenever an enemy steps into the Everbloom field, they will instantly take 120% damage and be stunned for 3 seconds. This effect can be triggered once for each enemy every 12 seconds. So that one's honestly not too bad for PvP, for getting the extra stuns. And then we finally get some buffing in his kit through his seasonal ability. But he has no core buffing in his kit, and that is the massive letdown. Every ability, instead of having additional like little buffs, it has additional damage, and the damage is just, like I said, non-existent unless it's a bug and it's just not displaying his damage. So we'll have to wait and see, but that is his base kit. So let's go ahead and take a look at some replays. Now, like I said, when we were testing in AFK stages, keep in mind we were on Season's account. He just didn't really... we couldn't find a way to make him work in AFK stage pushing at high deficits compared to what Season was already pushing with. He wasn't working. Maybe for free-to-play deficit, it might be a thing if that's what you really want to do. Me personally, I don't push deficits as hard anymore. So I think he's going to be okay in that mid-range, but at a high deficit, you're not dealing enough damage to proc his additional effects, which is kind of what the letdown is. So I'm not even going to show you guys anything from AFK stage. I just couldn't find anything that works. If that changes, I will update you guys. But I want to show you guys where he is appearing to work, and that is Arena. In Kroko is the only boss we've got to do. I'm going to preserve my bossing judgment until later, but I just don't see him outshining something like I feel like replacing Smokey with him is going to be a loss. I just don't see that being beneficial. Replacing Coco with him, I don't know if that's going to be a benefit to a team. So that's where we couldn't find a team in Croker where he was like completely excelling. But if that changes, once again, I'll do a whole update once we've gone through all the bosses. But let's take a look at this Arena one. So this one is, if we take a look at this team, now, this is Season's account here. You can see we are using Scarletta and Taylene, but keep in mind, the enemy team does have everyone except for Ewan in Paragon levels, so they got a ton of extra stats, and it's using Freyesto, it's using Scarletta, and it's using DNL. And DNL is a massive threat. A lot of people don't realize the threat that DNL is, because a lot of people don't have Giga Wailing on their servers, where a lot of people have him built. But DNL is an absolute threat. And what you'll see with this team is that it actually manages to live through the burst of a DNL. So you can see here, you've got his field, it's under his feet. You can see the little bar on it. It's not doing any healing. He moves it, now it starts healing. It's starting to lose, Then it gets restored. Obviously, we did 40% of someone's health, and it gets restored, and it gets restored. You can see how it's feathering around that position. And that's what it's doing. And so basically in this team, we're playing to stall. We're just trying to live. And that is the big thing. And so having him, Ewan, and Taylene grouped up, you can see the DNL is using his ult. Now, the first couple ults hitting Taylene are good because they help us to keep sustained, but between that sustain that we have on the team, we just purely just tank out that whole DNL burst, which is a pretty decent feat considering, remember, that this enemy team is in Paragons. So that is quite impressive. And now we get into the Talene burst phase, and we're looking pretty good. Now, the enemy Scarlita does what Scarlita does and just like taps Talene off the field from 100% HP, which is just absolutely ridiculous. But we do manage to clutch the win. So I thought this was a pretty impressive showing of his sustain capabilities. I think if you swapped him with a like Damien, you wouldn't have got the same results, because Damien's healing is not controllable, whereas his is. He only heals when you need it, when the field, like the field's there, and it has healing capacity, but it's not healing until you absolutely need it. And I think that is why he really works in PvP. Plus, you have that extra stunning capabilities. So I thought that was very, very impressive. So if we go back to this one once again, and we go over here, I want to show you guys this one again. But just note, his damage there, this is the crazy thing. His damage was lower than Huon. I don't know how that happens when there is so much damage stated in his kit. His damage was lower than Huon. It just makes no sense. But as you can see, his healing was really quite solid. But I don't know how he gets less damage than Huon. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at a couple other replays. Oh, here's one he's just sent me here. This is versus rank 1 on his server. So yeah, this one's pretty beefy. So you can see this is once again same team as we were looking at before. Where we've got, I haven't actually seen this replay, so I'm going to commentate it as we go. He's using the same team as we were before. Like I said, this seems to be like a really solid team for him. Has really high healing output. Once again, his damage is just nowhere to be seen. Thorin must have done a big clear on this one because his damage is huge. But you can see we do have the DNL in the enemy team here. And then obviously we've got Paragons on everyone except for Freyesto. So this is very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing this one. So this is a big power gap. So same sort of strategy here. Huon actually spread out a bit more this time. Okay, I'm curious to see how this goes because you kind of want your teammates grouped up. So his field is over there on the Talene. Okay, he's actually surviving not too bad. And that's the great thing about the Talene. Okay, let's see. How are we... Is he going to move this field? Or is it just the Talene damage? Okay, honestly, the spread worked pretty well there. The spread actually worked well because DNL couldn't hit a ton, and when he was hitting Talene, which was then just healing the other unit who was getting hit. So that was actually a pretty good spread on that one. So now we go into the Scarlita phase of the battle where it's like swing, swing, swing. That's pretty much it. But let's see, this Thorin should do a massive hit here. And as you can see, that Thorin up the top, just one tapping absolutely everything, was super clutch. But yeah, I think this is going to be like his main use is in PvP, especially with Talene. I feel like him with Talene, Huon and Talene is just such a solid call in sustain. And then you bring, I think Thorin's the greatest because you get extra damage out of that. He's using Scarlita, but you can bring something like, if you don't have Scarlita, maybe like an Arden or something like that would be another option to bring to that team. And then you just stall it out and do it more as a Talene main DPS, and then you focus on controlling enemies. But yeah, I think that is going to be his main play. So that was interesting. Let's go ahead and take a look at... I'd show you a Croaker replay, but it's really nothing impressive. I think in like Croaker and bossing, like if you're going to put him into a team, you're probably going to replace like Smokey, which I don't think that's a good move. I think Smokey's just straight better. Or you're going to replace something like a Coco, and I don't know if he's healing, because Coco's often used to mitigate high burst, which he can heal steady high damage, but not like the big burst. Like Coco can mitigate the damage. So once again, we'll have to wait and see on that a bit more, but let's go look at a couple other replays. Let's see if we've got one. Okay, so this one's against an Iron team. Once again, these are 4 units in Paragon. We are using 2 Celestial Hypergeans. They're only using 1, but they are in Paragon. So let's go take a look at this one. And honestly, I think against enemy Irons, when we use this kind of team, and this one is with the Damien instead of the Huon, I think the Huron is actually a benefit because it keeps your whole team grouped up so tightly that they're all in range of the healing field all the time, which is actually, to me, a benefit having your allies grouped up when you've got so much condensed healing with both Damien and Ludovic with their fields. So having your units grouped up, this is actually kind of a benefit to it. So that's what we're looking at there. So, like I said, at this stage, I feel like this sort of higher end PvP is his place. I feel like once he goes onto the standard banner, there could be a cause for new accounts to put him straight on the wish list over even Carolina. I'll explain that in a future video. Don't quote me on this. I'm waiting to see some more stuff out of him first. But in general, I do think maybe eventually he gets to that point. But right now, for especially people that have been playing from the start, Me, I really wanted him to be the Tailene unit that made us shine everywhere, but I don't have a need to really push any further in Arena on my account at the moment. So I'm not going to pull him just for the Tailene Arena combo. And I don't see his disproportionate use in the other aspects of the game right now. So that's why currently I am going to skip. But once again, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of testing. I will update you guys if we find some crazy strategies with him. But at the moment, once again, a solid healing unit. But, you know, we've already got so many solid healing units. So for especially free-to-play and low spenders, you want that unit that's filling a role that you don't have filled already. And I feel like we got plenty of units that already fill this role. And that's kind of what I'm looking at. But once again, if something crazy changes, I will let you guys know. But that is my current thoughts at the moment. Let me know what you guys think. If you pulled him and you're testing him, let me know how your testing went. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.